Welcome to Create Your Own Reality, a show about hope, inspiration, and encouragement. A program that will feature guests and topics that may inspire you to think about what is real and how you can create miracles in your life. Your host, Badeish Lange. Thank you for joining us on Create Your Own Reality. I'm your host, Badeish Lange, and my special guest is author and intuitive Sara Wiseman. Sara has psychic children of her own and is the author of Your Child, Your Psychic Child. And the question that I'm asking today is, how do we know if our child has intuitive or spiritual abilities? Welcome to the show, Sara.
Oh, thank you so much.
I wanted to take this opportunity to actually show this incredible book. I have read your book, and I was so impressed with the help that's in this book for parents, let alone helping the children.
Great.
So I'd like to start off also with asking a little bit of your background. You're such an extraordinary writer, because this is not your first book. There's other books that you've written. And I'd like to have a little of your background.
Sure. Interestingly, for very many years, I was not a writer or an author on New Age topics such as these. I was actually a journalist and a copywriter. And
really?
Yeah, a lot of what I did was I was a journalist that specialized in children's parenting and children's wellness. I did that for many years on a national level. Part of the reason I did that is because I had a bunch of kids at home at the time, and it just was a natural fit to just be writing about parenting as I was doing parenting. So my first book is Writing the Divine. That is a spiritual book of spiritual teachings. Mm-hmm. And during the receiving of that book, I had a psychic opening. And as I turned around after that event to look at my family, I realized that not only had I had a psychic opening, but there were quite a few little psychics running around
your house,
the household too. And this book was just a natural following up to that.
Okay. So you had, before you had this intuitive opening, you didn't consider yourself very intuitive.
Not at all.
Is there anyone in the family that you would say has intuitiveness?
Now, looking in hindsight, I would say that, you know, my mother certainly did, and probably both grandmothers.
Yes.
But we didn't use that terminology. We used, I was painted as creative, or you have a good imagination, darling.
Exactly.
So those were kind of the terms. That wasn't language that we used growing up at all.
In your spiritual sort of awakening, what was actually the event?
Well, the first, it sort of happened in stages. The first was a near-death experience, which is very common, yes. The next was I was in the process of divorcing, and the first day of that, moving to a different location, surrounded by packing boxes, a spirit guide just basically walked not in the door, but through the actual wood of the doorway, and presented himself to me. And that
you could see him.
Yes, I could see him in a very clear, palpable way. Not like when I normally see now, maybe in my mind's eye.
Yeah.
But in this one,
physical, more of a physical presence.
And that just kind of blew my socks off, because I didn't believe in spirit guides, and I didn't even know what they were. So it's like, who are you? And so that, and then 4 years later, I began to receive from 3 entities, very similar type of strange circumstance. Wow. And that was when I started to do channeled writing, and so it was all just a succession.
Well, who was in your life that kept you grounded in these experiences? Because you're talking about, this is not the average experience.
Right.
You had when you look at this short period of time, you had a crash course. I had a good part of my life where the phenomenon and the spiritual experiences were always sort of going on one level or another, and I would adapt to it. But yours was so condensed to wake up in these abilities, to recognize also that you had these children around you that had these incredible abilities also, to be able to mother them in their abilities is not only the gift, but then to take it to book form is so precious.
Yeah,
really.
it's, you know, that's a great question, because at the near-death experience, there was no one to help. I just simply floundered for 4 years. That was just not the best time of my life. But after the second experience with the palpable spirit guide, my partner, Dr. Steve Koch, helped me a tremendous amount. He had a huge, he was trained in Eastern philosophies, very good energy healer, so that was a support. And then I reached out to quite a other people in the community. Deborah Lynn Katz is an author and intuitive in California. She helped me quite a bit, and it just seemed with each question, a new teacher would show up for that piece of the pie or that little piece. And so I just went from one to the other saying, what's happening? Please help me. And it seemed like it did.
You know what's extraordinary about what you're saying is that I sort of want to share this with people that are listening to the show. When you start having that gut level spiritual experience with the guides, with your higher self involved also listening, the fear seems to dissipate so much in your life because you trust, because you can feel.
Yes.
You feel and you can trust. And that takes you on that road to where you're so much more aware, so much more alive, and in the joy of being able to know that, one, you're not alone, and two, they really are watching over our lives. And listening to you talk about your experience, there's no doubt in my mind. I just had a flash that was sort of a confirmation behind me, so it was just an exclamation point, and they're thanking me for telling you to share this so that you understand that they definitely are channeling your energy in a certain direction in your life, and you're so malleable in being able to follow those instinctual experiences that you're having, because you know there's more expansion going on, as you know.
Yeah. I sometimes joke that the reason, you know, they chose me to work with is because I was a fast typist and I could be writing books for them. I don't know. They choose people for, everyone has their own talents. Everyone, from what I can tell from my clients and in teaching workshops, this opening and expansion is happening so quickly to so many people, and the divine is just using whatever talent you have. They will make use of that,
well,
which
Sarah,
is great.
I think I have another idea about that. I think that your soul itself arranged all of this, and that's the giggle, is that when we start that whole process, I could tell you so many stories about being utilized and being so innocent, but trusting that and having these extraordinary miracles that were affecting not only me, but how I was being utilized.
Yes.
It was like they were praying about something and I was sent to deal with it.
Right.
And it wasn't until I was at the end of the experience that I realized that I was more than on a mission. I was their emissary, and they would always say, "I've been praying for this, and here you are talking to me about this, and that's sort of the way it works."
Yeah.
Okay.
I think this idea of being a channel is to step aside and let yourself be utilized, to be a conduit.
Well, you know, we're going to talk a little bit about the gifts so that the parents understand a little bit more. And one of the biggest misunderstandings is around the word channeling. And so as I'm in the near part of the show, I'm going to be reading the definitions, and you're going to be able to jump in any time. But I want it clear, because our soul senses that we're talking about that these children are just being born into. You know, I worked in having them develop and expand. These kids, they have it. Okay?
They do.
So what is it about, you know, why is their spirituality in these psychic children, how is it different? Because I really feel that it may be.
I think they're born, the underlying theme of that would be they're born with consciousness. Whereas perhaps we were not. And it's the generation to be born with consciousness. And it's at varying degrees. Certainly as a humanity, we're going to be much more conscious at some point, hopefully, than we are now even. But each stage in evolution brings us further. And so this particular group, you know, 25 and under, something like that from now is, and I know there were the indigo children before and some other terms, but this newer group is even further along than some of those decades of kids that were known before.
Well, you know, in your book you refer to intuition as the new intelligence. You want to explain that?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of books, not in the New Age world, just about emotional intelligence and intuition as being a right brain function, and I think that's great. I feel that so much of intuition is wraps around our emotional response, and it's around our heart's core.
Big time.
Yeah, and that's what these kids, they get the whole kit and caboodle. They've got the whole picture down from the beginning.
Well, you know, I think that what happened a long time ago is God created a being that came from the soul's presence through the heart's presence and came out the top of the head. In our culture, in our society, it has been purposely reversed. So we come through our head, we stay in our left brain because it's almost like a struggle to do anything else, and then we try to get to the heart. It's really, really confused. We make a lot of mistakes because we can't get to listening and trusting our soul feelings. And that's what's coming to the surface right now. These children trust their little soul feelings, where we have been conditioned and conditioned. And I always say there's this syndrome where women who are, and men who are in the process of discovering their self-identity, it's been like they've been in a jar with the lid screwed on tight with the holes punched in the top. And I can actually see the vibration in somebody. If they're in front of me, I can actually know how to approach them because they're very sensitive. This is all they kind of know. And to take that lid off and then to empower them to come out of that confinement is really what's going on in our society right now. Okay? And so we're going to continue as a species to expand. I don't care who we are. I mean, we'd have to be numbed down and dumbed down so bad and not to be able to understand that there's such a benefit for this conversation now, right?
Yeah, evolution requires change, yeah.
Well, you know, you've got us what I call the Psychic Child's Quiz. And any parent that's listening out there, or any therapist or anybody that is interested in this subject is going to want to hear this quiz. And I thought anywhere I move along that you would like to jump in, please do. Okay. First one is, my child is highly sensitive or gifted. Okay. So highly sensitive and gifted is just something that they may not identify that right off bat, or they just know.
Yes, and highly sensitive can mean some sort of negative things, like the child who has the tags in the back of their clothes that have to be cut out because they're too scratchy, or they can't eat the oatmeal if it's gotten just a little cold.
So far you've been me.
Yeah, so it's not always, you know, a good thing to have it's not an easy thing to have a highly sensitive child sometimes. And the reason the child is sensitive is because they're taking in everything all at once.
Yes.
They don't have a filter to
They don't have a filter.
Put it out, yeah.